Just jumped in the Tundra here and I'm heading to the shop. We've been putting it off for too long, but the brakes are pretty much shot on this rig, so it's time to give it some serious brake upgrades. So we've got a new set of DBA rotors for all four corners on our Tundra. Stock brakes are pretty worn out, so it's just time to do them. We also have Hawk brake pads to go with that, and that should really improve our braking performance quite a bit, especially now that we've gone to a bigger wheel and tire package, which adds a lot of rolling mass. And anytime you're towing or you have a lot of payload in the back, the braking performance that we should gain from those upgraded pads and rotors will really pay some dividends. And we want to test that theory. We've got a bunch of wheels and tires in the back, probably about 500 pounds back there. Ideally, we'd maybe be towing a trailer and a car, but it's wet out and we don't really want to take a chance of, threshold braking with the trailer. So this will give us a good idea. Really, what we want to do is a couple of hard stops from about 100 kilometers an hour. We're on a back highway where we can safely do that. We'll measure our braking distances with our AIM Solo here. We'll go back to the shop, we'll swap on all the rotors and pads, we'll come back out and retest. We'll see if we actually picked up some braking performance. All right, Pete, hold on tight. We're at 100K. I'm gonna go on the brakes hard.
Oh, a little bit of chirp.
All right, take 2 on the brake test. Here we go. All right, and we're at stop. I should mention that on the AIM Solo, we won't be able to tell you our braking distances right now. It's set up in autocross mode, but it's recording all the data, so I'll have to go back to my laptop later and analyze the data. So you won't get the results till the very end of the episode once I'm able to look at the data for both the stock brakes and then the DBA Hawk
big
setup.
Surprise.
It will be the big reveal at the end. Time to get to work installing our DBA 4x4 Survival Series rotors. These are their 4000 series T3s. And as you can see, we've got these Hawk SD Super Duty truck pads. And we've also got Peter working on the rear brakes already, which are squeaking like crazy. I don't know if you noticed when I was backing it in here, the brakes were squeaking nicely.
They were, and of course, we're dealing with more rust issues.
Yeah, rust. It's kind of the story of your life, isn't it? No seized bolts yet, PT?
Well, not yet, but this one requires the big boy bar,
The big breaker bar came out. And as you can see, these rear rotors are in pretty terrible condition.
Oh, see? The moaning and groaning. Oh, there it goes. Jesus. Oh. You can tell these have never been off.
Yeah.
As suspected, of course, the rotor is seized onto the hub. Now, there are screws that you can put in which are supposed to press the rotor off here, but because we're not reusing this rotor, I'm gonna go to the old hammer trick and see if I can pound this sucker off here. Of course, I like to wear some hearing protection from this loud, obnoxious noise.
Not Ken and I. We're stronger than
that.
Yeah. You moving? Oh yeah. You win yet, Pete? What's going on?
Oh man, rust problems. I'm close. Should be able. See, it's seized on the caliper there, on the inside, but the rust builds up on this lip, which prevents it from sliding off real easy. But a little bit of brute force and ignorance never hurts.
How do those shoes look?
Shoes are good. And now it's time for the DBA 4000 series T3 rotors.
Yeah, we've run these on a few different cars now, haven't we? And they've been extremely durable.
Yeah, we got them on our Mustang.
We do. And these are made of DBA's unique iron mix. Their metal seems to be very high quality because we have not been able to warp these or even wear them out yet. So very impressed by their performance. You can also see that we went with the slotted faces, which will help deglaze the pad, help refresh the pad, and give us lots of bite.
Before I go putting anything back together, as you can see, the slider pin is rusted, and we've got very little movement back and forth. So this all needs to be cleaned and lubed up so we have proper contact on both sides when we push on the brake pedal.
I should also mention about the rotors that they have their thermal markings on the sides, which means, you know, if we're
Right over here.
towing through the Rocky Mountains or something and we think we're getting brake fade, we could literally check these colors. And if they've changed color, we'll know that we're overheating the brakes. So that's kind of a cool feature. Wouldn't necessarily think of that being useful on a truck, but I've had brake fade issues towing through the Rocky Mountains, so it'll be nice to be able to keep an eye on that if we're ever in that situation.
So we're heading to the Rocky Mountains, is that what you're telling me?
When we go to Super Lap Battle, buddy, we're going to tow through the Rockies.
Yeah, man.
This is how Pete likes to clean up his slider pins. Get all that rust and crud off there.
Looks
so
good.
Slide nicely into the caliper.
As you can see, the sliders are now working on both sides. So it's time to put this all back together.
Pete's finished servicing the calipers, so it's time to slap these Hawk pads in there. These are their Super Duty pads, as we mentioned before, and they are
Super Duty.
Super Duty. They are actually originally designed for like military application and fleet vehicles that see serious payloads, but they're also really good for towing, which is what we're doing. So they're made of a special ferrocarbon compound that is extremely fade resistant and can take the heat extremely well too, and will have a lot more bite, much higher coefficient of friction. So this truck's going to be stopping a lot better just by virtue of the pad's friction material. Made into these rotors, I think we're going to have a lot more stopping power, a lot more fade resistance.
It's really never a bad idea to adjust the parking brake, and that's done through this little service hole here. And what I'm doing actually is just expanding the pads, the shoes, to push against the outer edge. And what I'll do is adjust it to the point that it is actually touching, and then you won't be able to turn it, and then you back it off just enough that it spins freely, and you've got a properly adjusted parking brake on the rear.
Nice work, buddy. Now I can return to trolling you since, you know, you borrowed my truck, you drove it across the country, you towed your Porsche everywhere.
Hey man, I put some new brake pads on it, didn't I?
You went on a
Didn't
vacation up in Napa
very
Valley
well
with it.
and all that jazz, but
No, yeah, you got me the El Cheapo brake pads.
actually no, these were the premiums.
Oh,
I was a little bit
premiums,
worried
okay.
about
Premium
towing,
from Pep Boy Premium is not the
Yeah.
same as Hawk.
Napa. Well, no, definitely not. What I didn't mention on the rear rotors is you want to make sure you wipe them down on both sides, because usually they're coated with just a little bit of oil so they don't rust when they're in their packaging. And of course we are going with the 4000 series T3s as well up front from DBA.
Yep. We should mention that they've got the fancy kangaroo paw
Oh yeah, that's
ventilation
right.
inside there, which does an extremely good job of moving air through the disc and cooling it. So helps again with fade resistance and overall braking performance.
Yeah, these are beefy.
I like that the
big
centers
rotors.
are painted too. It just gives it a clean look, so the centers aren't going to get all rusty.
Yeah, especially in our climate, that is a selling feature that we love.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, isn't it?
You may be wondering why I'm actually putting anti-seize on the pad, and no, I'm not putting it on the surface, but what I am doing is making sure that it doesn't seize up like the old pad did in the caliper and it moves around. So this is just a quick little tip to do that. And what we're installing are the same pad from Hawk as the rear.
Yep.
It's the Super Duty, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
And Dave already explained all the wonderful
Characteristics of the compound?
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah. And we will mention that they're chamfered here on the corners, so you don't get pad buildup or squeal, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a noise reduction feature. I
Ah,
think.
okay. Well, I did not know that.
I think that's what that's for, but someone on the internet can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we don't know everything, people.
Oh, we
just
proved that on a
claim
daily basis.
to do that.
No, we don't even claim it. As part of Hawk's normal brake pad bedding in procedure, we need to do about 6 to 10 stops from around 60 kilometers an hour, which I'm doing right now on the highway. It's a little bit sketchy, but you got to do what you got to do. After that, we do another 3 or 4 stops from about 80 or 90K to really bring them up to temperature. So the idea here is just to slowly add temperature into the pads, bring them up to full operating temperature, and then let them cool. So you let them cool for about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to cut this guy off here. Once they've cooled down, we will be good to go. At that point, we can redo our test, see if we've shortened our stopping distance. Time to finally test our DBA and Hawk pads out. We are on a side road now instead of out on the highway because there's just too much traffic out there, but I think road conditions are about the same. So I'm gonna go up to 100, jam on the brakes. Oh my God.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Man.
That's some brakes right there, boy.
All right. I don't need no
Yeah, the data doesn't even
data
matter.
to
That
tell
was
me.
like half the distance.
Holy smokes.
Wow, that is a huge difference. You know, that isn't just going to come in handy when we're towing. That's going to come in handy anytime you're in like an emergency situation. Like with all the stop and go traffic where we live, how often are you in these like highway situations where all of a sudden, wow, that is like way faster. That honestly is like half the distance.
It feels like it. You can tell the bite is just
massive.
I'd say 200% better.
Yeah, it is amazing. I actually feel a lot more confident in this truck now, just as a daily driver, being able to tailgate people like an asshole and get on my brakes like this, PT. Oh my God.
A lot of ABS lockup. It's incredible.
It's braking nice and straight and true too, and there's no vibration. Like I could do those brakes with my hands off the wheel. So, wow, super impressed, man. This is definitely a big upgrade, and I think when I go and look at the data, we'll be able to show you the numbers, and you will see a big improvement.
Speaking of, let's do that.
We're back at the shop, and I've downloaded all that AIM Solar data, and we can see that our stock brake stopping distances was about 75 meters, or about 245 feet for our American friends. And after we swapped on the DBAs and the Hawk pads, that came down to an amazing 50 meters, or 165 feet. So an 80-foot difference, or a 25-meter difference in stopping distance, which is a huge amount. That's
massive.
That's like 2 truck and trailer combo space between those 2 stopping distances, which means...
considering we didn't do like a huge brake upgrade, just pads and rotors, that's incredible.
That is an amazing difference. That wraps up this episode on the Toyota Tundra. We've got fender flares and a front lift kit for you soonish. After that, I'm not sure what we're going to do with it. Maybe overland build.
Oh yeah, big time.
Don't hold your breath though, but we'll chip away at it when we have time. We should also do a quick vest comparison. Peter's wearing his dollar store blue vest with what appears to be some kind of bird poop on the back.
Check out the inside of this,
my man. It's true.
This is what keeps a man warm at the tuning dungeon, okay?
Synthetic sheepskin in there.
You guys knock it, but...
Meanwhile, we got guest star Ken Wagon over here in his Columbia shop vest. He doesn't mess around.
No.
Although there is a burn mark in your vest, Ken.